Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. Today we are in the Shomron, we are on Mount Eval, on the way to the altar of Joshua. The Bible tells us that Joshua bin Nun, Joshua the son of Nun, brought the children of Israel into the land of Israel 3,300 years ago, and he built an altar to God on Mount Eval. And we are going to see this altar that was discovered by an archeologist, an Israeli archeologist whose name is Adam Zartal. So it's really, really fascinating, and enjoy the trip. Today, as you can see, we're hiking out in the open fields. We're in the Shomron. We're actually on the top of Mount Eval. Mount Eval is a location in the center of the Shomron, in the center of the land of Israel, and it is mentioned in the Bible. And we are here in order to visit a archaeological site, a very special and unique archaeological site, which has been determined to be the altar of Joshua. The altar of Joshua that is spoken about in the Bible and in the book of Joshua and in the book of Deuteronomy. I'm going to read a verse in some verses in the book of Deuteronomy to tell about this location, tell about this story. But first I'll tell you about what we're doing today. As you can see, I am hiking with a group of boys. These are young men who learn in a yeshiva in Israel. They are in the 7th grade. This is an educational field trip that I am guiding. Typically I guide adults and families, but sometimes I am called in to guide younger people, school students, which is a special experience. To get their attention and participation is a challenge, and I had a good time working with these young men today. They are full of energy, and it is a challenge for a guide or a teacher to get their attention and to get them involved in the story of what we're doing. And we are here, as you can see, hiking in the land of Israel, out in the open. And one of the things that I asked these young men in order to get their attention is look around. Where are we? What do you see around us? Why did we come here? And of course the answer, they knew that we came to Mount Eval in order to visit the archaeological site of the altar that was built by Joshua. It was built 3,300 years ago. And I asked them, I said, look around, look to the south, look to the north, the east, and the west. What do you see? What places are you familiar with in the different directions? We spoke about Jerusalem, which is south of Mount Gerizim. It's about an hour and a half drive south from Mount Eval. We're on Mount Eval, which is north of Mount Gerizim. By the way, on this field trip, we also visited Mount Gerizim, which is a very special. It takes some time to get from one to the other because we need to drive around the city of Shechem, Nablus. We can't drive through the city of Nablus. If we could, it would take us about 15 minutes to get from one to the other. But being that we need to detour all around because of the Palestinian Authority, it takes us almost an hour to get from one to the other. In any case, we spoke about Jerusalem, which is in the south. We spoke about the towns of the Shomron that we can see around us to the east, and Shechem, Nablus, which is below us, which we can't really see from the place that we're at. And that is also interesting regarding this site, because many researchers over the past 200 years who hiked and dug and on Mount Eval seeking the altar, looked for the altar on the southern slope of the mountain, because the southern slope of the mountain overlooks the city of Shechem, Nablus, and is across from the Mount Gerizim. and many expected to find the altar on that side. And we'll talk more about that. So anyway, if we look to the east, we can see the mountains of the Shomron, the eastern mountains of Shomron, Elon Moreh, and Salem, and Itamar. And if we look further into the east, we can see the mountains of Jordan on the other side of the Jordan River, which is really fascinating to realize, and for these young people, for them to realize that we can see another country from where we're standing. We can look over and see Jordan. So we spoke about archaeology, which is the science of investigating ancient human activity to find things that were made by people. So I told them about the work of Adam Zartal, who was the archeologist who found the site. And what Adam Zartal did was he organized the survey of the hills of Menashe, or Menashe. We're in the land of the inheritance of the tribe of Menashe, who was the son of Joseph. What Adam Zartal did was he organized volunteers to come out to the entire region of Menashe and to stand in a line, shoulder to shoulder, and then to span out. And I asked these boys to do the same in order to visualize, to understand what Adam Zartal did when he was surveying the Menashe land. He asked all of these people to stand in a line and to take a notebook and a pen and to start walking very slowly to span across the entire region. The Menashe survey by Adam Zartal, which was conducted for over the course of 8 years and is still active today. Although Adam Zartal passed away, there are other people who are conducting the survey now, who are continuing the work. And what they did, walking in a line, spanned out with about a meter in between each two people, and looking down at the ground, they wrote down in their notebook if they came across any evidence of human activity. So if they found a piece of pottery, of clay, or a stone that was engraved, or chipped away and made into a building stone, or if they found stones placed one on top of the other in order to construct a building, or anything that was evidence of human activity, they wrote down in their notebook. And then they took all of this information and tried to figure out what time period they found over 1,500 settlements, ancient places of residence of people throughout the ages that were unknown before the survey, which is pretty amazing. And here on Mount Eval, they found a pile of rocks, a huge pile of rocks on the northern slope of Mount Eval. And around the pile of rocks, they found a compound. The whole area was compassed in a stone wall. If you take an aerial photo of this wall, you can see that it has a shape of what Adam Zartal described as a shoe print. And he found 5 or 6 different locations between the Jordan River and Mount Eval of encampments, of ancient encampments that date back over 3,000 years, about 3,300 years, which is the period of the biblical entrance of the children of Israel into the land of Israel. And Adam Zartal called this the footprint, which is interesting. In Hebrew, there's a term for pilgrimage. It's called aliyah leregel. And Adam Zartal came to the conclusion that these footprints have to do with the term of pilgrimage, of aliyah leregel, that this is the ancient footprint. So I'm going to stop for a moment to read some verses in the book of Deuteronomy. It says, "See this day, I set before you a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, and I enjoin upon you this day. The curse, if you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn away from the path which I enjoin upon you this day to follow other gods, whom you have not experienced. When the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are about to enter and possess, you shall pronounce the blessing at Mount Gerizim, and the curse at Mount Eval. Both are on the other side of the Jordan, beyond the west road that is in the land of the Canaanites, who dwell in the Arabah, near Gilgal, by the turbulence of Moreh, by Elon Moreh." So this is one of the places that the Torah, the Bible, tells us about Mount Eval, and about the blessing and the curse. There was a ceremony that took place between these two mountains when the children of Israel entered the land of Israel. And this took place between the two mountains, Mount Eval in the north and Mount Gerizim in the south. And additional verses that we will see tell about the commandment to build an altar on Mount Eval. So Adam Zartal, who ironically was an atheist, he wasn't a religious Jew who was trying to prove the Bible. He was a scientist, an archeologist, who wanted to find evidence of antiquity in the land of Israel. And for this reason, he conducted the survey of the mountain of Menashe, and he came across this altar, this huge structure, and he dug here and found ash and remnants of bones of animals that were sacrificed on this altar 3,300 years ago. And he came to the conclusion that this site, the altar on Mount Eval, proves the historical truth of the Bible that tells us that the children of Israel entered the land 3,300 years ago, and that they gathered on Mount Eval and built an altar to God. And that, my friends, is truly, truly amazing. I mentioned earlier in this visit, on this video, that we have certain challenges accessing certain sites in the Shomron because of the Palestinian Authority, the areas that Jewish people are not allowed to enter. And this area too, Mount Eval, although the altar itself, the entire area of Judea and Samaria was divided into three different categories. Areas A, B, and C. This is part of the Oslo Agreement with the Palestinian Authority, or with the PLO. And the Palestinian Authority was given control over certain parts, the areas A, and parts of area, in certain ways, parts of area B. This is something that we should elaborate more when we speak about Judea and Samaria and the political situation. But particularly for our tours, I want you to know that visiting Mount Eval is a complex issue. It's not open to the general public regularly. We are visiting today under the Midreshet HaShomron, the Shomron Torah educational agency, and they coordinate with the IDF, with the army, in order to get the permission to bring groups onto Mount Eval, and that's the way it works. So this is as you can see, it's a very important and very interesting place to visit. It's not simple to access this place. I would love to host you on tours on the ground to visit. And also, as you can see, part of it includes a hike. Uh, there's an area that we can access by dirt roads with the cars or bus up to a certain area, but not all the way to the altar, to the archaeological site. So there is some hike that we need to hike down the mountain in order to reach the site. Say it's about a 20-minute walk, which we saw at the beginning of the video. But then going back, it's about a 20-minute or 30-minute hike up a very steep mountain. As you will see here, it's like literally walking up a wall. Sometimes, depending on who the guests are and what we have available, we might be able to bring in jeeps in order to get our guests all the way very close to the site. But this is one of the places that I would love to bring you out to visit in the Shomron. It's not the only place to visit in the Shomron. There's so much to see here. But surely be aware of this, and be aware of the fact that it's complex. It's not a simple issue. I'd love to hear your feedback. Are you watching this? If you've seen it, please send me some comments. Tell me what you think about this tour. Ask any questions. I'll be glad to answer if I know the answer, and if I don't know the answer, then I'll do my best to look into the details and get back to you with great details, and start planning your tour to Israel. Come out and see and enjoy the beauty of the land. As you can see, there is archaeology, and there is nature, and there are people, and there's scenery, and history, and there's just so much to see here. So I enjoy hiking out in the land, if it's in the open fields or if it's in the city, and I would be glad to host you here on these tours as well. Yes, one of the things that we always need to take into account, that when you go out and hike, if you walk down the mountain, then there's a good chance that you're going to need to walk back up the mountain. And today we are on Mount Eval, which is actually the highest mountain in the Shomron area. And it's a very beautiful place. It has amazing scenery. There's a very interesting geological story here regarding the formation of the stone that we're walking on, and the difference between the stone that is on this mountain and other mountains. And as you can see, the mountain is pretty bare. That has to do with the landscape, with the stone and the earth, and the wind and the cold up here on the mountain, which makes it difficult to grow trees up here, and that's one of the reasons that the mount is barren. It has a similar type of stone as two other places that we'll speak about in the Gilboa and in Tzfat in the Galil, which is also very interesting. And we're just going to walk and walk and walk and walk up the mountain until we get all the way up to the top, and then we will reach our buses and be on our way. From here we're going to Mount Gerizim. I already have another video about Mount Gerizim, and so I won't be speaking about Mount Gerizim today, but I'll be doing another tour on Mount Gerizim pretty soon for the Samaritan Sukkot celebration, and I hope to see you there. Until our next video, be well. Shalom. This is David Ha'ivri.